Hi guys, this video is intended as an explanation for our Essay 1 prompt. So right now I am in our due Sunday 625 folder because that is where you will find all the Essay 1 materials. So if you notice, if we're in Unit 1 here, if we go back to assignments, Unit 1, it will tell you Essay 1 materials can be found in this folder. So that's why we clicked on 625. There's a folder here for all our materials. And I have all these documents open at the top. They all open as PDFs. So we can go through them one by one here. So let's start with the prompt. So the due dates are going to be at the top of your prompts, okay? We're going to have the Adichie discussion assignment, the rhetorical analysis discussion, and then the final draft of the paper is listed here as well. And I have the syllabus course schedule open right here, just so you can kind of see how everything matches up. Adichie discussion assignment is due 6/21, right? If you look down the column here. And then the rhetorical analysis discussion, it's the advertising discussion, due 6/25. And then the final draft of the essay is due 7/2. Okay, so you can always match the due dates on the prompt with the due dates in the schedule. All right, so let's go here to our prompt. In preparation for this project, you will view Chiminada Adichie's The Danger of a Single Story. The TED Talk episode discusses stereotypes and their incomplete nature, and also how having a single story of a person, place, or culture, quote, robs people of their dignity. Your goal is to construct a rhetorical analysis of Adichie's arguments. To do this, you need to write an account of her argument. An account is not the same as a summary, although you will need to do some summary. Your paper should first explain how Adichie's use of specific kind of evidence supports the argument. Okay, so that's the first thing. How the argument is constructed, second thing. In order to evaluate how well the author convinces her intended audience. This is the main goal of this paper. How well does Adichie convince her intended audience? Keep in mind you are not agreeing or disagreeing with the argument, only analyzing it. This first essay will demonstrate your understanding of rhetorical strategies and appeals, understanding how Adichie is using rhetoric to convince her intended audience, and discussing why she chooses specific rhetorical moves based on her intended audience. So this is kind of a lot of jargon here, but I promise by the end of this video you'll know exactly what I'm looking for. Okay, so first, successful essays will have an introduction that accurately and effectively introduce and contextualize the topic, article, project, and argument in the introduction, have a clear statement that indicates how the paper will proceed, indicate a clear focus in a well-written thesis statement, and stay true to that focus throughout the essay. Your thesis statement is going to be whether or not Adichie's argument convinces her intended audience. Whether or not Adichie's argument convinces her intended audience. You will describe Adichie's project and argument and what you see as her most important or interesting subclaims, explaining how these subclaims relate to the main claim. Have body paragraphs which describe how Adichie organizes her text and how this influences what she has to say. Analyze and evaluate the way she supports the claims and the moves or strategies she employs to persuade her audience. Describe the strategy or strategies, provide interpretation and analysis of how the strategy works, and explain why Adichie chose to use these strategies. The bolded part there is the most important part of the prompt. Include a conclusion which comments on how the text is significant, what difference it might make to readers, and obviously that would go in the conclusion. And overall implements proper stylistic conventions, smoothly integrate quotes, use an effective structure, write the paper as if addressing a reader unfamiliar with the text, and include proper MLA documentation with in-text citations and a works cited. Okay, so there's kind of a lot going on here in the prompt, so I want to kind of show you what this looks like in outline form. Okay, so here is your outline. And remember again in this folder, the outline here, the outline template is right here. I opened the PDF for this video, but I also have it as a document file, so you can work directly with the outline. I'm not collecting the outline in class, but it's just there for you to kind of organize your essay before you submit it. So I strongly recommend you download the document file of the outline and fill it in for your own essay. If you notice, the outline is already in MLA format. last name, you would just need to change your last name here and your name here. I already have the due date there for the essay. The header and everything, the page numbers is already in MLA. So when you download the document file, you can just use that for your own paper. And then here's what the outline looks like. The intro, okay, you will have the rhetorical situation, which is the audience, author, and purpose of the text, Adichie's main argument here, and then your thesis, which is some variation of the following. Adichie's text is either ineffective or effective in persuading her intended audience, and then I have this in brackets here. You don't have to include this if you don't want to. It's called a plan of development. So if you say because of her use of identification, exemplification, and narration, okay, you can list the strategies here if you'd like, the ones that you're going to talk about in the body, or you can just leave it here, period, after before you start talking about the strategies. Either way is okay with me. And just so you know, let's go back here, do Sunday 625. In that folder, there's a rhetorical strategies handout which pairs with the rhetorical strategies lecture. So on the outline, the skills that you're going to learn in that video are the rhetorical situation, what the argument is, and all the rhetorical strategies. So you'll really need to watch that video before you begin outlining your essay. Again, this video here. And then the advertising discussion board will allow us all to start practicing with the rhetorical strategies before you start outlining your paper as well. So there's lots of things that are going to help you with this essay. So in the body of the paper, you're going to have the summary of the main claims of the text in just one paragraph. And then this is where you start to get into the rhetorical analysis. Every body paragraph will be a paragraph based upon a strategy. So you'll have a strategy here. So your topic sentence will say something like, Adichie uses exemplification to persuade her audience. You'll provide a quote of, for example, exemplification, how the strategy supports the claim, and explain the effectiveness of the strategy in supporting the argument and convincing the audience. That's really important. Does this strategy help to convince the audience? And that's basically going to be the whole body of your paper. So every body paragraph will be a different strategy. Now, if you're going to use the appeals, ethos, pathos, logos, this is really important. I would like you to pair it with something else in the rhetorical strategies handout. Okay, so pair, if you're going to use an appeal like pathos, for example, I want you to pair it with a strategy like identification, because pathos is very broad. The appeals are very, very broad, and typically there's another strategy helping to appeal to either ethos, pathos, logos. And this will all start to make a lot more sense once you watch that video. Okay, but of course email me if you have questions about that. And then the conclusion will be the significance of the argument. Okay, so this is the breakdown of the essay in outline form. I've also included the rubric here. Okay, so your thesis is going to be the evidence or strategies and include the effectiveness in convincing the audience. Body paragraphs follow logically. Each paragraph has one specific focus. So each body paragraph is going to be one strategy. Each paragraph stays on topic and connects to the topic sentences. There's clear transitions. The intro is solid. It includes all these things. And then the body here, account of the argument contains claims, names evidence which supports the claims, provides evidence, etc. The things that are in italics here are the most important to your grade. How the author supports the claims, the effectiveness of the author's argument for the intended audience in extensive detail, discusses strategies in detail and how they support the argument, notice the italics here, the significance of her argument, good voice, no second person, which means you and your, smoothly integrates quotes, and then grammar here. Okay, so we're looking for strong in all of those categories, of course, right? And then the next document I have up here is a sample essay. Okay, this is from a different text from a couple of years ago, or last year actually. So you can kind of go through and see how this student rhetorically analyzes the text miles traveled, miles to go. So I'll let you guys kind of read through this on your own. What I wanted to show you was this next document, It's the same student essay, but this has my annotations on it, so you can kind of read them side by side to see exactly what the student is doing. So the intro starts with a hook and then introduces the author's text and argument, and then identifies the author's audience, and then has a clear thesis. Kaplan's greatest strength is her emotional appeal, but her greatest weakness is a lack of factual evidence. That's a very clear thesis. And she says that the text is somewhat effective. Okay. She says her audience is consisting of her frequent readers and chance readers of her essay collection. Those are her specific readers. And then what she's done here, notice emotional narrations. Okay, so she's going to talk about pathos and narrations in this paragraph. She identifies the purpose of the strategy. These narratives serve to evoke an emotion stemming from an experience shared between reader and author. And then she has a quote. One such narration is, and then she has a quote here. Then she analyzes the quote and how the quote demonstrates the strategy. The word swooned carries a feeling of being swept off one's feet, a very positive emotion. So notice here, she's going directly into the quote, analyzing specific words and phrases that suggest their emotional or narration, right? And then the blue part here, she talks about the effectiveness of the strategy. Effectively shares her awe and disillusionment by skillfully describing the situation she witnesses and bringing the reader into the moment. Once one imagines him or herself in Kaplan's situation, one gains a better understanding of her feelings and realizes the hurt of failed expectations. Her detailed narration also grants her credibility by proving that she personally experienced first hope, then dismay at Obama's lack of action in helping racial minorities. Okay, so this paragraph is really, really strong. I want you to use this as an example for your own paper in terms of the structure and development. So again, the topic sentence with the strategy, the purpose of the strategy, the quote, analysis of the quote, and then the effectiveness of the strategy. And then she goes on to do that throughout the essay. So there's tons of resources here on Blackboard to help you, but as always, feel free to email me with any questions.